Bruno Fernandes in talks with Barcelona and Bayern Munich over a potential summer move. Casemiro looking likely to join Cristiano Ronaldo at Al-Nassr. And Jadon Sancho reportedly wants to return to Manchester United under one condition. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's show. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on this morning's show. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel as well. I will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I'll have a video for you in the morning, a video for you in the evening, and if anything drops during the day, I do go live as well. So make sure you get involved for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Right. Honestly, there's so much to get into on the show today. I had a little day off yesterday, which was nice. A little day of peace, a little day of relaxing, but we're back. And there are so many different transfer stories to get through. So let's jump straight on into it. There's a story that's just broke this morning, which is, I think it's complete rubbish, but let's talk about it anyway. But it looks like Casemiro is going to go to Al-Nassr in the Saudi League, which that bit of the story is legit. That will happen. It's been widely reported that, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo wants Al-Nassr to sign Casemiro. He's their number one target. They tried to sign him last summer. They're going to come back in this summer. Now, the fee that's being floated around this morning, which I think is absolute rubbish, is a journalist has come out this morning saying that apparently Al-Nassr are going to offer Manchester United around 90 to 100 million euros for Casemiro. I mean, that is literally the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. I think the best indication of how much money we'll get is the amount that Liverpool got for Fabinho last season. So Liverpool sold Fabinho to Al-Ali, I think they're called, for 47 million euros. That's kind of about the amount of money we should be looking at for Casemiro. So, you know, some of these stories coming up today saying that Man United are going to ask for 90 to 100 million euros. That's just ridiculous. Like, there's no way on earth he's worth anything near than that. That's 76 million pounds. I mean, if they offer it, of course, that's amazing, but that's not going to happen. So, yeah, I'll keep you updated on that one. But it does look like Casemiro will be reuniting with Cristiano Ronaldo. So this is coming out from Fabrizio Romano. He's reporting this morning that Casemiro is expected to leave Manchester United this summer in case of a good proposal. He says interest from Saudi Pro League remains active. It goes on to say that the first step for United is whether Erik ten Hag will stay or not, and then they will decide. So I said this on the show last week that all of our summer transfer business is effectively being held up by the future of Erik ten Hag. Obviously, we've already missed out on Tosin, the centre-back who's about to join Chelsea. Like, there are lots of targets out there who will probably already be agreeing the next club they're going to go to. You know, they'll be being told about the project. Whereas at the moment, we don't know what our project is. Is our project with Erik ten Hag? Is it with a new manager? Are they going to stick with him for 6 months and then maybe sack him? Like, if you're a player looking to come to Manchester United, it's incredibly unstable at the moment. It really, really is. And I think that the sooner the better that Ineos come out and just tell us what's going on. I think it will really, really help the situation. But yeah, so at the moment we're just sitting ducks. We're playing the waiting game. But Casemiro will leave Manchester United, I think. That seems very likely. So you've got another story about this as well, coming out from Marca, which is a Spanish outlet, 6.6 million followers. They're reporting this morning that Cristiano Ronaldo has called Casemiro to convince him to join Al-Nassr this summer. So that's one to watch in the next kind of couple of weeks of the window. Obviously, Casemiro has been dropped by the Brazilian national team, so he won't be playing at Copa America. He'll be looking for his next move now, if he's going to move. This will be the time where these types of deals will happen. So officially, the transfer window doesn't open for about another week, but lots of teams are getting deals agreed. And then as soon as the transfer window opens, they'll sign the piece of paper and all the rest of it. So yeah, there is plenty of stuff that is happening at the moment. It's just nothing can actually be confirmed until the window opens. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone has had a good weekend. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and smash a like, that would be really, really appreciated. It helps to bring more people into the channel. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe as well. It doesn't cost any money, and it will really, really help to allow us to do bigger and better things in the future. So make sure you go and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Right, let's move over to Bruno Fernandes then, because this story has caught me by surprise a little bit, but at the same time, when you actually break the story down, it makes sense. So this is coming out from multiple different people today. Fabrizio Romano, a couple of others. But the general headline is this, that apparently Bayern Munich are in talks with Bruno Fernandes' agent. Barcelona are apparently also in conversation as well. It says Fernandes will start preparing for the Euros while his agent could finalise a move away from Manchester United. So that's one story. And then we've got another one which says, from a source close to the player, both Bayern Munich and Barcelona have made contact with Bruno Fernandes to inquire about the conditions of a transfer and may soon make bids. So it looks like this one's really, really starting to materialise. Obviously, Fabrizio Romano was the first one to break it. I think it was a couple of days ago, saying that Fernandes' agent was, around Europe at the moment, trying to facilitate a move somewhere. So it's a shame, but being completely honest and taking all emotion out of it, if I'm Bruno Fernandes, I leave Manchester United. He's 30 in a couple of months, right? He'll be 30 in a couple of months, and he hasn't really won much at Manchester United. He's won the League Cup and the FA Cup, which, let's be honest, obviously it's nice to win trophies, and winning the FA Cup was really good, and winning the League Cup was really good. But if you're Bruno Fernandes, right, you have no real... I mean, obviously he plays for Man United, but he doesn't support Man United. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's his boyhood club. And football careers are very short-lived. I think if I'm Bruno Fernandes, to be honest, I would leave Man United. I think in 2 or 3 years we could genuinely be challenging, but in 2 or 3 years Bruno will be 33. So by the time we're actually at a point where we could be challenging in the league and, maybe challenging in the Champions League, I think best case scenario it's 2 or 3 years away. And by that point his contract would have expired and he'll be 33. So it's like, what's the point in staying to be part of a rebuild? I know we won the FA Cup last season, which was obviously great, but do you really think like Bruno Fernandes would be happy winning the FA Cup versus, challenging for the Champions League or challenging for a title in the Spanish league, like a La Liga title, or challenging for the Bundesliga? Like, we're not challenging for the Premier League. We finished 8th. That's a fact. The season before, last season under Erik ten Hag, we didn't challenge. We haven't really challenged for the league in the last 10 years at all. I know there was a season where we finished second and people were trying to make out that we were challenging, but we finished like 20 points behind Man City. So sometimes the table is a bit misleading. Arsenal were challenging for the title this season. They lost out by a couple of points. But in the last 10 years, I don't remember Man United ever being in a position, really, where we were, 1 point off the top on the final day of the season. It's been like we're 20 points off. Or even in some cases, we've been like 20 points off at Christmas. And when you actually look at the amount of trophies that Bruno Fernandes has won, right? So he's been at Man United, I think, is it 4 years, 5 years now? He's won the League Cup and the FA Cup, and that's it. Like, is that really good? I don't think it is. For a player of his quality, who clearly could go to a Barcelona, clearly could go to a Bayern Munich and would do really, really well, I do think that for his own sake, he should go. Now, that's not me saying I want him to leave, okay? I like Bruno Fernandes. I think he's probably our best player. But you have to think about it from their perspective as well. And the question I've got for you this morning is this. If you were Bruno Fernandes, right? So take all emotion out of this. Imagine you were hypothetically Bruno Fernandes and Barcelona and Bayern Munich were coming in for you, both of which in the Champions League, both of which have better squads. Would you leave Man United? Let me know. Get in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. As I said earlier, I would personally. I think for the betterment of his career, him moving to one of those two clubs would be much better. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Malp says, Bruno is nearly 30. Ineos want to cash in on him clearly. I mean, that's the other question as well. Do you think Man United should cash in on him? That's another question to ask you. Because he is 30 in a couple of months. He's got, I think, 2 years left of his current contract. Either you sell him now or you give him a new contract. I wouldn't personally give him a new contract. Not because I don't think he's good enough, but because, by the time his current contract expires, he's going to be about 32, 33. He's got 2 years left of his current deal plus an option of the option of a further year. So he's technically got 3 years left of his current contract, right? So if we would just let that contract run down, he'd be 33 when his contract expires. Whereas say you gave him like a new 5-year contract, he would be 35 then. So for me personally, it's either you cash in on him, you probably get, I reckon you probably get anywhere between 70 to 100 million euros for Bruno Fernandes, somewhere in that range, I think. Harry Kane cost, how much was Harry Kane? I think Bayern Munich paid 100 million euros for Harry Kane. Was that right? Let's have a look. Bayern paid 95 euros for Harry Kane. And Harry Kane is 1 year older than Bruno Fernandes. And I think he only had 1 year left of his contract. So, yeah, I imagine if Bruno was to be sold, you'd be looking like 70 to 100 million euros would be the kind of figure. Which, when you think that we only paid, I think about, we paid 65 million euros for him. So it's an option. I think, yeah. Mount says he says Mason Mount is clearly Bruno's replacement. Mate, 100%. 100%. I completely agree with you. I've been saying that for about the last 6 months. I think it's so obvious that Mason Mount was brought in as Bruno's replacement. So obvious. People, including myself, did not understand why we signed Mason Mount. Okay? He's only just turned 25. He is a talented player. I know he's had a poor season, but Mason Mount is a good player. Is he as good as Bruno Fernandes? I'm not sure. But, I mean, if you look at it from a trophies perspective, Mason Mount's achieved more in his career than Bruno Fernandes has. He's won the Champions League, he's won the Super Cup, he's won the FA Cup, he's won quite a lot of things in his career. But yeah, I genuinely do believe that, Manchester United were looking at Mason Mount as a replacement for Bruno Fernandes, because I don't see why we signed him otherwise. Bruno Fernandes doesn't get dropped, and Mason Mount plays in Bruno Fernandes' position. So you don't go and spend, 60 million euros on Mason Mount for him to just sit on the bench, or for him to play in the League Cup, or to play in the early rounds of the FA Cup. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all, because defensively, he's not amazing. He's better as an attacking midfielder. So I genuinely think you're right there, mate. I think Mason Mount was seen as an opportunity which would allow us to consider selling Bruno in the future. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what Ineos do here, because there obviously is genuine interest in Bruno Fernandes from various different clubs. And if they're going off on the whole narrative that they, want a young squad, they don't want people over the age of 25, then Bruno Fernandes doesn't really suit that, does he? He's 30 in a couple of years. He's probably only going to start going a bit more downhill from here. So it's an interesting one, and it's one we need to obviously continue talking about. CBK says, what about a swap deal for Frankie de Jong? I mean, that would be good. Although I think Frankie de Jong's injured at the moment, and there's a bit of a concern about Frankie de Jong having some recurring injury, I'm pretty sure. Let me have a look. So he had 3 different ankle injuries last season, Frankie de Jong. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. He was ruled out for the season in April. I mean, Bruno Fernandes' injury record is unbelievable. If you traded potentially Bruno for de Jong, you're going from a player who doesn't ever miss a game to a player who's had 3 injuries this season, all in the same bit of their body. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And obviously, if Eric Ten Hag is sacked, then we won't go in for Frankie de Jong, I doubt. I'd be very surprised. But we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Obviously, let me know in the comment section what you think about the Bruno story. Let's move on to Jadon Sancho then. I assume everybody watched the Champions League final. I really don't think Jadon Sancho offered very much in that final for Dortmund, being honest. I think he was very average. I think he showed what he showed the United fans. He didn't really offer anything. He didn't light up the pitch. When you compared him to like a Vinny Jr. or one of the other attacking players for Real Madrid, I think Jadon Sancho looked very average. But the headline this morning is that apparently Jadon Sancho wants to come back to Manchester United, ... but only if Eric Ten Hag is sacked. I mean, that's just a load of rubbish. I'm sorry. I believe it, but it's a load of rubbish, He's paid by Man United. We paid, 70 million euros for him. What gives him the right to say, like, oh, I want to come back, but I want the manager to be sacked? I mean, mate, you'll be lucky if the Man United fans even welcome you back, to be honest. I think most Man United fans want Jadon Sancho gone. You know what? Let's do a poll quickly. Let's do a poll. Whilst I set up the poll, everyone smash a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. What would you do with Sancho? Bring back to United. So, Okay, you can get involved. Anybody watching back on repeat, you can let me know in the comment section. The question is simple. What would you do with Sancho? Would you bring him back to United or would you sell him? Let me know what your thoughts are. Where was the other story? Yeah, the story goes on to say that Dortmund would like to sign Jadon Sancho on a permanent transfer, but apparently cannot afford to pay Manchester United's asking price, which is in excess of £50 million. It goes on to say that Sancho is also reluctant to give up on his United career and still has ambitions to make it work at Old Trafford. You know what's going to happen here, don't you? Right? It's so obvious. Jadon Sancho will end up getting loaned back to Dortmund. So obvious. And they'll get what they want. They don't have to pay any money for him. And effectively will be the mugs of the situation. Dortmund have just got to a Champions League final. They've qualified for Champions League next season. They've clearly got money. We paid 75 million for him. How can they say they don't have any money? I'm pretty sure we're still paying off that transfer fee. They sold Bellingham for 100 million last year. Like, I just think it's complete rubbish. Obviously, they sold Haaland the season before last. Like, they've definitely got money. And I think this whole, we can't afford him is just complete rubbish. And I think it's a way of putting pressure on Man United, where Man United either have to take him back or they loan him out again. And that's how I see it. And I think this will be part of the decision that Ineos are having to make. You know, they'll be looking at the situation saying, if Erik ten Hag goes, we can bring back Jadon Sancho. That means we don't have to sign another winger. Like, I'm sure they've got it all, you know, pros and cons, like all listed out. I bet you any money that Ineos want Jadon Sancho to come back because he fits the profile. He's obviously works for the homegrown players quota in the Premier League and all the rest of it. Jadon Sancho to me is like an Ineos player. From what I'm seeing, you know, from the players that they're trying to sign, like the Branthwaites, the Chalobahs, like, you know, they're all players from the Premier League who are English and will meet the homegrown quota for the Premier League. So I think, you know, that they'll be heavily thinking about this because if they can bring Jadon Sancho back and they can have a manager and it works, then that will be seen as a success for them, won't it? But I just think it's gone too far with Sancho. I just don't see a future. But yeah, I think he has to be sold. He has to go. I think loaning him out would be a disgrace. It really, really would. But I honestly believe that, you know, all these other clubs are still looking at Manchester United like a laughingstock. They're still thinking we can do whatever we want and Man United won't be able to argue back because that's how we have been for the last 10 years. And I think Ineos really need to change something this coming transfer window. Otherwise, it's just going to be more of the same. Right, so I'll just read out the results of the poll quickly. So 88% of you want Jadon Sancho to be sold and 12% of you want Jadon Sancho to come back. Obviously, if you're watching this back on repeat, you can let me know in the comment section, what would you do with Jadon Sancho? Me, I get rid of him 100%. But I could see, I honestly could see Ineos bringing him back if Erik ten Hag's sacked. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back at 6 o'clock today for an evening show. Please do smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I'll speak to you all at 6. Have a great day, everybody.